It's Wednesday, October 6th, and this is Now on H&N.
No, this isn't right.
It's been more than 3 weeks since a 6-year-old girl was reported missing in Waimanalo. Today, child advocates are rallying, demanding answers.
What would be the systemic way of relaxing restrictions so that we can have activities return to normal?
Changes to COVID restrictions could be coming soon. We'll hear from Governor Ige and tell you when that could happen.
For the second straight month, Oahu's median price for a single-family home is over $1 million. An update on how residents are getting priced out of paradise.
I don't know how the young people can afford to live here.
Plus, lava is still erupting at Kilauea's summit. We'll chat with an expert coming up on This Is Now.
Good afternoon. Thank you for watching This Is Now. You got Jonathan and Ashley here in the H&N Digital Center. Want to take you live to something that's unfolding right now in Kalihi. Community members are rallying as we speak, demanding that authorities continue their search for 6-year-old Isabella Ariel Kalalua.
The little girl was reported missing from her Waimanalo home more than 3 weeks ago, but there haven't been any new updates in the case. Now an advocacy group called Protect the Keiki are calling for answers from Child Protective Services. Mark Carpenter has more.
And we are now speaking with Lana Idao, Isabella's biological auntie. Now, Lana, first off, thank you for joining us. How did you, as we wait for some of the procession to pass by, how did you hear about this event? Because it is our understanding that this was not organized by Isabella's biological family.
Correct. It was on Instagram, media, Facebook, so we just came down to support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you make of the response thus far and seeing so many people out here speaking up for Ariel?
Very overwhelming. People just walking up out of nowhere and say, hey, can we help? Can we be involved? What can we do? You know, so that's what they're doing right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those that we have talked to thus far, you know, this is an event that is targeted at state child protective services. What are the questions that you have for CPS in this investigation?
To determine how you do your process, making sure follow the guidelines and protect the kids. To protect the kids when they go into foster homes. You know, make sure, as it's been said on the news or elsewhere, you know, there's a 5-year background check and for Hawaii, you know, and as people doing their own investigation, they're seeing a lot of history of other foster families and how could they have gotten the kids also. So there's a lot of raised questions.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of suspicions did you have about CPS and throughout this entire process and how the placement of the children went?
Still lacking, I guess, information, still lacking a lot of questions needs to be answered that everybody has, and I don't know. It's hard.
Honolulu police have said they are not actively searching anymore. How did that sit with you?
It's hard, you know. For us, we're just still looking. We still going out. We doing rallies. We doing whatever we can to just keep out there and try to find her, you know. Whether it's with them or not. But if any information and anybody comes with any information, call Crime Stoppers so they can go out and check for, you know. We just want to bring her home already.
On behalf of Isabella's biological family, what can you tell us about search efforts that could be happening in the future?
Well, we're planning rallies. We're doing another rally this coming Friday in Waimanalo from 4 to 6, and then 6 to 8 in front of Puha Street again also. Try to keep it alive, keep the music of her keep going, so everybody knows what's going on. Come on out, you know, support. It's not only just for Ariel, but for all the kids of Hawaii, you know, that has no voice. So, yeah.
Lana, thank you very much for your time. Lana Idao, Isabella's biological auntie, and we'll have much more on today's event, on air and online on Hawaii News Now 4, 5, and 6. In the meantime, back to you.
Now to the pandemic, the state health department is reporting 7 more COVID-related deaths today, along with 168 new cases. The breakdown of infections by island shows 100 cases on Oahu, 34 on the Big Island, 18 on Maui, 11 on Kauai, and 1 on Molokai. 4 residents were also diagnosed out of state.
Meanwhile, the State Department of Health says it now has enough Pfizer shots to provide booster shots to any adult who qualifies. That includes healthcare workers, grocery clerks, and anyone else who might be at risk of getting sick at work. Boosters are given 6 months after the second dose, and only Pfizer recipients are eligible so far. Some of the state's COVID restrictions could be eased very soon. Governor Ige is planning to make an announcement this week. By Friday, the governor plans to reveal changes for tourism, large events, gatherings, and more. Here's a portion of what he had to say in a one-on-one interview with HNN.
We are working to look at what would be the systemic way of relaxing restrictions so that we can have activities return to normal. I guess, at the same time we're talking about fans at UH football games. I also was asked about professional wedding planners and being allowed to reconvene that, and banquet hosts, talking about restoring that, and we were talking about expansion of capacities at restaurants. I mean, there are a lot of things that we are focused on in terms of risky behavior that allows for the infection to continue. And so in looking at all of those things, we felt that it was more prudent to stay the course. We felt that there was still too much virus activity, and our hospitals were still at risk of being overrun. And so the prudent decision was to not allow fans this week. And we certainly are looking at it moving forward. We know the next game is in a couple weeks, and we'll be making that assessment.
Well, so many people are still trying to get into that hot housing market. Casey Lunn's been following this for a while, all the trends and what's happening there. What'd you find out?
Well, no huge update here. We're always continuing our coverage with Priced Out of Paradise. People, local folks, just trying to get something, to buy something here in the state. Oahu, though, this month, these numbers are coming in for September now. A median price for a single-family home, now $1,050,000. Condos are going up to $480,000, the median price. So everything's on the rise, and inventory is low. It makes for a very competitive market. So I set out to talk to home buyers and realtors. I lucked out and got 2 in 1 here. We talked to Mila Gibson Banman. You'll know her. We've talked to her several times. She's a realtor, but she's also jumped into the housing market herself. Now, she found the perfect home in Hawaii Kai. It was like $965,000. They had offer well over the asking price. They had everything lined up. They got outbid. They weren't included in that. And as a matter of fact, the day that the seller was going to pick the buyer, her realtor reached out to her to see if they could shore up a couple things with their offer. Listen to her story.
We did everything she asked us to do, and we ended up the second position backup. And I followed that house all the way to the end, just hoping that we would end up being the ones that the first buyer would fall out. And it closed. It closed way over asking, right about at the same price we were at. But what broke my heart even more was like 3 days after it closed, I saw it up for rent. So, I couldn't help but to feel that tinge of frustration that buyers are feeling right now, feeling as though investors are pricing them out of paradise, and I experienced it for myself.
So, Casey, basically what you are telling me here is you and I are going to be in a shoebox apartment for some time to come, right?
Very likely. It's not looking great unless we come into some money or win the lottery. But, we always want to not just talk to realtors. So on Sunrise this morning, we set out. We were at Magic Island just trying to talk to everyday people. Wasn't able to get anybody that's actually in the market right now. But I was talking to some folks, some retired folks, and just everyday people. Some of them have homes through Hawaiian Homes, about how grateful they are to have property. and the likelihood of whether or not they're ever going to try to move or upgrade anytime soon.
I don't know how the young people can afford to live here. It's just crazy. I don't know how, because the rental prices, I think my niece pays $3,000 for an old house, really old house. And I'm like, $3,000 for this? She goes, yes, Auntie, that's the going price.
I'm settled because retirement, I retired. I kind of on a fixed income right now. I can manage my mortgage and maintenance fees, pay all my little incidental bills and stuff like that. So I'm comfortable. And I just got to watch my spending, Yeah, like everything goes up, but you got to buy less now, yeah.
So, Casey, what advice do you have for anyone who's struggling out there, like so many, because it's tough?
It is. Other than the obvious, to remain positive, to save as much as you can, make sure your credit, your finances are in order. Of course, everybody knows that. But I actually got a good little tidbit from Mila, who said, you need to watch out for fraud. With so many transactions happening right now, big sums of money changing hands, all online, a lot of it. In fact, some people are getting scammed by those impersonating their escrow officer. So double check every detail on those payments. Make sure it's going over a secure, encrypted link. And if you have any questions about the details of those transactions or something isn't adding up, don't hesitate to contact your realtor, contact your lender, get everybody on board on the phone to make sure that you're not getting duped out of a lot of money, because it's happening as the market is really, really hot right now.
All right, Casey, Lund, good advice, good update. Let's toss it back over to Ashley with more news.
In Hawaii's evolving drug crisis, a dangerous narcotic is being mixed with street and prescription drugs to get younger people hooked. In part 2 of her special report, Lynn Kawano shows us who's helping addicts get clean, and we want to warn you, some of the video is tough to watch.
Drug use in Hawaii is changing. Deals aren't just shady meetings in the shadows anymore. It's easy for powerful drugs to be purchased online and delivered to the home.
Hi. I'm a ER doc. You need help with, anything?
Emergency room Dr. Mark Baker walks the streets of Chinatown. Baker has treated hundreds of people suffering from drug addiction, prompting him to do outreach in his free time. He also runs a website called endmeth.org. Meth is still the drug of choice for addicts in Hawaii.
Probably the most common thing we see is somebody who's got heart failure because of their meth. So they've been using it for years, the heart is overworked, it gets big, it doesn't pump well.
Baker asks addicts and recovering addicts to share their stories on his End Meth website, hoping to convince others to get help. And it's not just meth users.
My name is Scott, and I live on the streets of Chinatown.
While meth is still the overwhelming killer of Hawaii drug users, fentanyl and fentanyl-laced products are a growing cause for concern. Numbers from the high-intensity drug trafficking area program show meth contributed to 197 deaths last year, more than the previous 3 years. Fentanyl was blamed for 26 deaths, compared to 19 the year before, 9 in 2018, and 10 in 2017. Experts believe those numbers are climbing, with an increase in fentanyl-laced prescriptions.
The pills that we're seeing on the street that people are getting via the internet and social media are not the real Adderall, not your real oxycodone, not your real Xanax, but they're pills that are laced with fentanyl.
Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid, cheap and highly addictive. The Drug Enforcement Administration says these are the drugs making their way into people's homes.
Drug traffickers are, I believe, targeting kids simply because their goal is to get as many people addicted to these drugs as possible so that they have lifelong clients and therefore job security. And they really don't know, and they don't care who they're selling to.
The DEA says parents need to be aware of what their kids are buying online and what they're sharing with friends.
It all has fentanyl in it. Everything.
Everything has fentanyl.
Paige Nakamura, who works the needle exchange van for the Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center, says fentanyl is now found in most street drugs, too. It's why she passes out fentanyl test strips from the van.
See? Automatic right there.
So what does that mean right there?
Positive. Yeah, it's positive.
The strips allow people to test their drugs for fentanyl, which is 100 times stronger than morphine and much more powerful than heroin.
It doesn't say how much there is, but it does say whether it's there or not.
Half is hers, half is mine.
The test strip showed fentanyl in the heroin these two people are about to inject.
About 6 months, I have never gotten any that hasn't had any, seriously. And some has more than others.
Knowing that there is fentanyl in it, they know to inject less. They use the alcohol wipes and clean needles they just got from the van. The two say they have tried quitting heroin many times, but couldn't handle the painful withdrawals.
Okay, here you go, baby.
Nakamura knows that pain. A former heroin addict, she was once homeless, living among those who now visit the van.
I lived in the tunnel underneath the Kuakini Bridge. I was one of those people that was absolutely written off.
Nakamura said facing an open 10-year sentence for drug crimes is what got her clean for good. Now she focuses on others. She knows she cannot make them quit using, but she can help them stay safe.
I mean, there'd be more diseases going around. People would be using the same dirty rigs over and over and over and sharing it.
Because needles are returned, it keeps them from ending up on the streets or in the parks.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Dave Hogan is also a recovering heroin addict who used to live on the streets of Chinatown.
Because that's what's happening right here. The guy with the bags, he has stolen goods in his bag, he's selling them for cash.
Staring down a long prison sentence got him sober too. Like so many others, his addiction started with prescription opioids.
It became harder and harder to find these pills. And when you did find them, they would be, overpriced or like way super expensive. And so finally, my dealer at the time recommended that I try heroin, and that's something that I always told myself I wouldn't touch. But in that circumstance, when I was faced with the withdrawal, I didn't have enough money, I wanted to just get my fix to feel better, I was willing to try it. And so I did. I made the mistake of trying it.
Hogan fought his way back. Staying sober is still a struggle, but he is now getting his master's degree in social work and volunteers as a drug rehab counselor. On this day, he's doing outreach with Dr. Baker. Outreach workers say it's a challenge to keep up with the evolution of drug use in Hawaii, but they are committed to being there for those who need their help. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
A small swarm of earthquakes hit Hawaii Island late last night, including a magnitude 4.6 quake. They hit just near Kilauea. We received numerous calls from residents saying they felt the shake. And the quake had no impact on the Big Island's volcanoes. It's been 1 week since Kilauea started erupting again, and all lava activity is still confined to the crater. Matt Patrick is a research geologist with the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. He gave us this update today on Sunrise.
And wanted to ask you if this earthquake, which I believe was a 4.6 magnitude, if that has any significance or if that says anything about this eruption.
No, we haven't seen a connection yet. This recent earthquake was part of an ongoing swarm that we've had that's been going on actually for quite a long time, actually. Increased earthquake activity in the Pahala region over the past several years. But it doesn't seem to be connected or show any signs of impacting the ongoing eruption here at Kilauea Summit.
Matt, can you give us an update? We appreciate you being out there. It looks stunning even a week after. What are you seeing from the crater and just the scene this morning out there?
Yeah, it's a beautiful morning here at Kilauea Summit in Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. I'm here at the summit looking over the caldera here. The eruption's been going on for about a week, relatively steady, lava filling Halema'uma'u crater. The lava has kind of filled it up to a depth of about 100 feet. It's still flowing, still erupting from the vent, all contained within the crater, obviously. And what we see in back of me is the degassing plume that's drifting with the trade winds to the southwest.
You know, every time Kilauea erupts, it's so exciting. What has struck you about this eruption as being unique?
Well, it's this eruption, of course, it's always fascinating to see activity here at the summit. And, this is the second eruption that we've had this year. Obviously, it follows the large collapse that we had in 2018 that, enlarged the summit caldera here. And, we're basically in this kind of phase of lava refilling that very large kind of deepening of that crater that happened a few years ago.
All right, that was the latest update from USGS there. Wanted to let you guys know there is a red flag warning in effect for parts of the state right now. Those winds are picking up. We have all those details posted to your H&N digital platforms, but this is a good time to remind you, download that H&N weather app. I'm plugging it here, but it's a cool tool to use because you get those alerts sent right to you when there's things like fire dangers or severe weather dangers. You just download the app. It's different from our news app. It's the severe weather app. So just search for H&N Weather, Hawaii News Now Weather in your app store, and you'll find it right away. Let's turn it over to our expert who's in the house, Guy Hoggy, to give us an update on all those conditions unfolding outside right now.
It should be fairly dry this afternoon. High temperatures running to about 88 degrees. But with those breezy winds, it won't feel quite as warm. Now, with those breezy winds, we also have the biggest surf rolling into the east side, but it's also going to be choppiest there. And heads up for South Shores. Starting on Friday, a significant swell will start rolling in. So we are going to see really nice weather today and tomorrow. Winds running at moderate speeds, but those winds will get very strong from Friday into the early part of next week. We could even see wind advisories posted, maybe even some spotty power outages. So heads up, get ready for that. Otherwise, keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
Thank you very much, Guy. Let's see what the internet is talking about today. All right, so before people were sliding into each other's DMs, they wrote these things called letters. Yep, letters. And now we're getting a glimpse into some of those love letters. Let me just pull up the visual here. This is what I'm talking about. This puzzled historians for 150 years. So during the French Revolution, Queen Marie Antoinette wrote several letters to her rumored lover, Count Axel von Fersen of Sweden. She was from Sweden, so it makes sense that he's from Sweden. But until now, there were no true meaning behind them. That was hidden here. You can see some of the letters are blocked out. So certain letters were like almost scribbled out for our podcast listeners is the best way to describe it. There, you see a better shot there. And so a team of scientists used a special X-ray device to reveal what was hidden behind that. And these words included beloved, tender friend, which is ironic, adore, and madly. Very cool.
Scandalous.
And so, yeah, researchers believe von Fersen censored the letters to sort of hold back some sentimental reasons and maybe some political ones, because it's sort of rumored throughout history that he might have helped organize a failed attempt to smuggle the royal family out of France when that French Revolution was all unfolding. I just watched Marie Antoinette on one of the streaming apps this past weekend. It's one of my favorite Kirsten Dunst.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm into it.
Fascinating.
Okay.
Well, Uber now offering easier airport pickups for some customers. So the rideshare company says it has expanded Uber Reserve for passengers at airports. With this feature, travelers can reserve a ride 30 days in advance from one of 20 airports around the country. Now, once booked, Uber says it will keep track of your flight, so the driver will be waiting when it lands. And if the passenger needs more time, the driver will wait up to an hour for no extra charge. Now, Uber says it's also testing a new feature at 6 airports for flyers who do not want to reserve a ride. Ready When You Are allows travelers to request a ride once the plane lands, and it has options for pickup in 20 minutes, 10 minutes, or as soon as possible.
Good to see some changes coming to that front as well.
Yeah.
You guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now on this halfway through the work week, Wednesday. We'll be back here tomorrow for more This Is Now, so you won't want to miss that. Ashley's going to be back at first at 4. As you just saw, a lot of developing stories still unfolding here today at H&N, so get your updates there. And please don't forget to download that streaming live app to your smart TVs, guys. That's where you can catch us anytime.